Welcome back. This is Zeyad Ali for Java Object-Oriented Programming. Today we're going to talk about Java access modifiers: public, default, private, and protected. So what are access modifiers? Actually, access modifiers determine whether other classes can use a particular field or an attribute in your class, or if they can call a method in your class. There are four access modifiers in Java. First one is default, second is public, third one is private, the fourth is protected. So how they are different? If you make a data member or a function public, then it is visible and accessible anywhere in your project. However, default modifier or no modifier makes it only visible within the package. The third modifier is private. If you make any attribute or method private, then it can only be visible inside the class only. The last one is protected, which makes those attributes or methods visible in the package or the subclasses. Let's look at the example we are using in this project. First, we have the src folder, from which we have the model package, in which we have the circle.java class and test.java. Another package is called app, in which we have the myapp.java. Let us see the code. Here is our class, the circle class, in the model package, in which we have a default constructor that takes no parameters. All the methods are public. Most importantly, the radius property is also public. I have two other classes, one in the same package and the other in a different package. I'll go to the test class in the same package. I'm trying to create a circle object here. Circle C1 equals new circle. I'll try to set the radius now. C1 dot radius directly equals 1.4. Now I can call all the public methods. In the circle class, I'll try to output the area, c1.get area. I'll also try to output the perimeter. All are public, no problem calling them. Get perimeter. Run. The output is here, no problem at all. Now, I am going to copy all the code from this class and paste it in the myapp class, which is in a different package. I'll paste the code, create a new object, set the radius, call all the public methods, then run. No problem. I could access all the public data members and all the public methods from the circle class. So from the examples, you have seen that data members and methods with public keyword are visible and accessible from everywhere in the same package or any other package. Once you progress further in object-oriented programming, you will start looking at this from a different angle. You will need then to protect your data members. Let's look now at the second access modifier, or the no modifier. Actually, default modifiers or default members are only visible in the package. If there is no keyword like public or private or protected, then that data member is only visible in the package. Here we have the same circle class. We now added one new method and changed the visibility of the radius. I removed the public keyword from the radius declaration, and I added a new method without the public keyword. So, if you try to access radius and get diameter from the same package, no problem at all, since they have package visibility. However, if you try from a different package, you're going to get an error for both the radius and get diameter method. The error would be the moment you try to set a value that has no package or no public visibility, or you try to use a method that has no public visibility. Let's look at the code. Here I'm back at my circle class. I remove the public keyword from the radius declaration and from the get diameter. If I go to the test class, which is in the same package, no problem at all. I can run it directly. Nothing has changed for this class since it's in the same package. I'll also use the get diameter, c1.getDiameter, which has a package visibility. Run. No problem at all here. The problem is not in this class. The problem in the myApp class, which is in a different package, since now I'm trying to access the radius variable, which has no visibility here outside that package. Remember, we removed the word public from the declaration of the radius. It's not recommended to use data members or methods without an access modifier. You will see other alternatives as you progress further. Let's look at the private access modifier, in which the data members or methods will only be visible inside the class. Look at the same example now. Radius is now private, and the getDiameter method is private. Private means both radius and the getDiameter method are only visible inside the circle class. Even if you try from the test class, which is in the same package, it's not going to work. Even myApp definitely is going to show an error. Let's go to the code now. I'll change the radius to be private and the getDiameter method also to be private. Oops. Private double. Now I'm going to get an error in both classes. The one in the same package, at line 7, I'm trying to access the radius, and at line 10, I'm trying to use a private method from outside the class. Definitely, I'm going to get the same error in the myApp class, which is in a different package. In object-oriented programming, most probably going to set variables to be private to prevent the user from setting invalid values, like giving a negative value for radius or negative value for age or weight or any other invalid value. Most probably the main reason is going to be validation. So one way to get around this is to provide the client or the user of your class with a setter method in which he sends the radius, and there inside your method you can validate the value. See, this setRadius method is public. The user now can access it from inside the same package or a different package if it's public. The same thing I can do here with the myApp class, which is in a different package. Inside your set method, you would do the validation logic depending on your example. So here we're going to prevent the user from setting any negative value for the radius. Let's do this in the code. Here our radius is still private. However, I'm going to provide a new public method, public void set radius. I'm expecting the user to send any double value. Here inside, I can check if the value sent to me by the client or the user of the class is negative. I'm going to ignore it. Otherwise, I'm going to accept it. If r is greater than or equal to 0, then radius is equal to r. Let's say else radius is equal to 0. This way, the user can use this public set method. You do your validation code inside the set, and ensure it's a valid value. I will remove the private from this diameter. Let me go to the tester here. Now I can no longer set the value directly. I can use the setter method, set radius, and provide my value. Let me just get rid of this get diameter, run the code. From this class, no error. See if I try to provide a negative value, that negative value will be ignored and it will be set to 0 by the class logic. Again, the error is not from here, so the radius is 0. I will go to the external class, which is my app. I will use the set radius from here, 3.5. I can now run the code without any problems. I protected my data member. However, it's still available to the clients of the class if they provide a valid value using a public setter method. Another way to allow users to set the values of private data members is to provide a parameterized constructor. Here we see a new constructor that takes one parameter for the radius. You validate the radius and then accept it only if it's valid. Now, instead of creating a circle object using the default constructor, you're going to create a circle object using the parameterized constructor, and the class will take care of the radius value. Here in the test class, we're going to call the parameterized constructor with the value, and the value is going to be accepted. Here also in the myApp class, we would do the same thing by calling it with the value. In many cases, you need to do both the public set method and parameterized constructor. Let's do this in the code. Here is our circle class. Now I can provide another constructor, public circle double r. If r is greater than or equal to 0, I can use it. Radius is equal to r, else do the same code. However, it's much better if I just call the set method here, this method, from the constructor. No need to duplicate the code. So I'll call the set radius method with the r value. That's it. Now, in either of the tester classes, you can either call a circle object with the parameterized constructor. As you see here now, I'm sending this value, so the default constructor will not be used, the parameterized constructor will be used, and the value of radius will be set. I can do the same thing from here, or I can still use the default constructor. Let me run both classes to make sure it's running fine without any problems. The last access modifier is the protected access modifier. Protected data members and protected methods are visible in the same package and in the subclasses of the class. Here, we change the access modifier of radius to be protected. Now, this value is visible in the same package and to the subclasses of the circle class. This tutorial is not intended to be about inheritance in object-oriented programming. A subclass, in brief, is a class that inherits all the features of the superclass. So, by looking at this example now, if we look at the test class, which is in the same package, you can directly access the radius variable. No errors here. However, since radius is protected, if you try to access it from a different package, you're going to get an error. Same thing applies to methods. We will change this method to be protected, and we will see how we can access it from the same package. Here I'm back at the same class. I'll change the access modifier of radius to be protected. Then I will also go down and do this to be protected. So the get diameter method is protected and the radius is also protected. If I go to the test class, which is in the same package, then no problem. I can just do anything. Here I can say C2 dot or C1 dot radius. It's visible to you. You can access it and you can do whatever you want. I will run this. I'm getting no error. I can also call the get diameter method from the same class. C1.get diameter is visible to you and you see the yellow circle around it. Run. I'm getting also the diameter. Let's go to the other class, my app. I cannot change the value of the radius now directly. C2.radius is not visible to you. I don't see it. Even if you type it and you try to set a value, you're going to get an error. Let me correct this. You're going to get an error simply because it's not visible to you. Radius, it's not visible to you. The error, as you see here, the field circle.radius is not visible. Even if you try to get or use the get diameter method, let's see, C1.get, you don't see the get diameter method because it's under the protected access modifier. It's only visible to the classes in the same package or to the subclasses of the class. Hopefully, you have learned the uses of access modifiers in Java, when to use public, when to use private, and when to use protected. And as I said before, default access modifier or no modifier is not recommended at all.